Thank you. So who made a shopping list? Still. Okay, we got one, two. Okay. All right, good. The rest? What colors? Blue, pink, purple, maroon, teal. Yeah, huh? Amazing. I I did that meditation with a group on Friday, and they were like, "You tricked us. What a great way to lead us into meditation, and we didn't even know we were meditating." And then they talked about they would follow their breath once in a while, but they had never really given it a color before. And I don't know about you, but I don't live in black and white, That was back in the day, the black and white. We live in, technicolor, full color. And I believe that colors are so vibrant and they each have a vibration, and it just reminds me of how alive we are when we have an opportunity to really use the breath and the scope of color and music and all kinds of things like that. So it's to that kind of energetic that I welcome you this morning, and I bring you love from the Covina Center for Spiritual Living. I was there 2 weeks ago, and they send their love to you, and of course received your love because I was just here on August the 2nd, right before I went to go speak with them. And what a great opportunity it is for me to simply be in so many beautiful spiritual communities and just kind of be the messenger and the like I carried in my backpack, like, here's the love from West Covina, And then when I got there, it's like unpack all the love from Simi Valley, and how wonderful it is that wherever it is that I go, that I have an opportunity to just be baptized, be enveloped, be drenched in the love of communities so rich like this one. My talk title today is It Ain't Over, because as we begin to now celebrate the coming of Steve Rambo, your new minister, in the next couple of weeks, I was just thinking, wow, does that mean like I don't get to come? And it ain't over. It ain't over. So thank you for saying, Reverend Maggie, that I'm part of the family, because that's exactly what it feels like for me. Like one of the distant cousins that comes for a family reunion, and when I'm spending the summer here, I got an opportunity to spend the summer with you, and what a great opportunity it is. And yet, when I begin to think about sometimes where we put a period to end the sentence, where God has placed a comma, or where a comma belongs there, or a semicolon, or some other kind of exclamation point, or some other kind of marking that says, it ain't over. It's not. It's not over. And how we may think that because we've lost someone, or we've lost a job, or a season comes to an end, that all of a sudden that's it. It's no more. It'll never be again. And though it has some truth to it, it is important for us to constantly remind ourselves of the truth. And that truth is that life is eternal. And that even though we may think that a chapter has come to an end, that chapter may be done, but there's still so much left to the book of our life. And how we get an opportunity to be the authors of our life. We get to create and co-create in spirit, in God, in our universe, in our world. And therefore, it ain't over. Therefore, it's not really over. It is indeed just the beginning of an opportunity for us to create something anew. I know that I love reading my Science of Mind book, and I'm always trying to find new things in what I've read. And it's almost like I think to myself sometimes, gosh, I've gone through this book a couple of times now. who opened it up and put that text in there? Because that wasn't in there the first 2 times that I read it. Was it you, Reverend Maggie? Yeah, you know? And it's interesting because the truth is that it's always been there. But I'm at a different space in my consciousness and in my growth and unfoldment and my development that when I read it a second or third or fourth time, it means something totally different. So it ain't over just because we've read it once. Now at a different point of our evolution, we're now at a different space, so it means something different. And as I was being with a reading for today that would be the basis of my talk, I came across in the Science of Mind book, in the chapter, The Power of Thought, the activity of one mind. And I'll read this and then elaborate a little bit on it as it has to do with It Ain't Over. We're living in an intelligent universe which responds to our mental states. That's already deep right there. It responds to our mental states. To the extent that we learn to control these mental states, we shall automatically control our environment. This is why we are studying the power of thought as we approach the subject of spiritual mind healing. This is what is meant by the practical application of this science to the problems of everyday living. The result of this mental work is what is meant by demonstration. So as a result of what we think and how we manifest, how we control our mind, how we actually purposefully begin to think in a particular way, what the outpicturing is called the demonstration or the manifestation. In the great universal mind, man is the center of intelligence, and every time he thinks, he sets mind in action. Because of the oneness of mind, it cannot know anything outside of itself, and therefore cannot contradict any thought given it, but must reflect whatever it is cast into it. We are immersed in an infinite creative medium, which, because of its nature, must create after the pattern of our thought. This is why Jesus understood this, and in a few simple words laid down the law of life. Quote, "It is done unto you as you believe." No more simple and yet no more profound statement could be made. So when I introduced this talk title about It Ain't Over, simply thinking about times when we've been disappointed, times when things didn't work out the way we wanted it to, we get to remember gently, not beating ourselves up. Well, my life is a shamble because I've been thinking that way. Not beating ourselves up about that, but recognizing it as an opportunity to look at the demonstration of life and say, it ain't over. Like, even though there seems to be a mess, there's a message that's going to come out of this mess, because it ain't over. There is indeed an additional demonstration that can happen as a result of this. And what has been made manifest, that demonstration, that outpicturing of our life, even though we may call it a mess, whether it's in our finances, in our relationships, in our careers, with our family and friends, whatever it is that we're looking at that we go, golly, this is a mess, it ain't over. We can say gently, wow, there is a power in the world, there's a power in the universe that I can use for my good and for the good of all. And if I work it, if I use it, if I utilize it, if I court it, if I indeed begin to be interested in it and learn how to use it, I can use it for my good. I can use it for the good of this situation. This situation can totally turn around. Notice being gentle. Being gentle, because so many times we can use this teaching to hurt one another. So for instance, someone has a cold, or someone got their house repossessed. Is that repossessed? Yeah. Right? They lose their home, foreclosure. A lot of times in spiritual community, we might say, well, what was in your consciousness? Well, what were you thinking about that caused that to happen to you? Notice how it is a hurtful use of this beautiful opportunity that we have. Compared to, hey, I know stuff like that happens. And do you know that there's a powerful good that you can use that will actually give you even more than what you had? Do you know that there's a power and a presence that when you focus upon it and that when you begin to use it and work it, that all things are possible? Do you know that it is done unto you as you believe? When I think about the Wright brothers, like up until then, people were like, giddy up, on horses. You know, they had this, and then from the horses, it's like somebody decided that they were going to bend metal and now, create motors and wheels, and then, we're in the automobile. And then I think about the Wright brothers thinking, wow, you know what, if we can do this with a horse, and if we can actually propel ourselves forward on the ground, we can probably propel ourselves forward in the air and do this thing called flying. It is done unto you as you believe. All things are possible. Do you know how many people thought it was time to go to the loony bin for the Wright brothers? Do you know how many folks thought that a mile could not be run in under 4 minutes? How they would let animals loose to see if humanity could run fast because they were being chased by these animals to see if they can run a mile in less than 4 minutes? And yet, it was done. And folks thought it was an impossibility. We hear over and over again that we're only using a small amount of our brain's capacity. We hear so many times, oh, you're just a dreamer, honey. Get back to reality. Or you're never going to be that, so I don't even know. Do you know how much it costs to become a doctor? We don't have that kind of money. Do you know how much it costs to go to New York to see a musical? We don't have that. What do you think? Money grows on trees? Who do you think we are, Rockefeller? I'm dating myself. Interestingly enough, all of the ways and the things that we do to talk ourselves out of something, if we were to use that same power and presence to talk ourselves into it, where could we really be? Where would you be? It is done unto you as you believe. So it's never really over unless you say it is. When you manifest something, when something outpictures, when you get to work and the boss is sitting there kind of saying, I'm not really pleased with your performance, you can whose book have I been reading? Oh. Whose mailbox have I been in? Whose journal have I been in? you can totally create again. You can totally go back into the workshop of your heart and mind and create again. That is the power of our teaching. Jesus understood this in a few simple words. It is done unto you as you believe. So if you believe it's a waste of time, then it is. If you believe it's possible, then it is. Now, I have to tell you, though, that believing is not just, okay, so I believe, now what? It ain't working, look. I believe, okay, I believe. But do you know what it takes to believe? It takes a lot of repetition. It takes practice. It takes dedication. It takes hearing things over and over and over again, absorbing it over and over again. All of you, I didn't actually see all of you come in, but what I know about us is that, and I think I've said this before here, all of us came in and just plopped down on these chairs. Why? Because you believed that this chair would support you and keep you off the floor. Nobody examined the chairs. Nobody said, let me check out the integrity. What do the legs look like? Is this good enough? No. You've done it enough with other chairs. And this looks very similar to the other chairs in your life. And you just came and you plopped down, sat on it, believing that it would support you. That's belief. That's belief. Now, if you think about how you got there, it was instilled in us probably when we were quite wee little ones, right? But if you've ever sat in a chair that has collapsed, you might have had a different experience. Some of those plastic ones in the summertime that we use, you know, the ones that have been out in the sun too long and they're all brittle and frail. The next time you see one of those, you're kind of looking at it like, right? So it takes some energy into believing. Just like we believe that when we hit the light switch, that little thing, this little square, rectangular thing on the wall, we believe that if we hit that or lift it or push it, that the lights will come on. And yet we can all sit here in the dark and believe that the lights will come on the minute someone touches it, but if nobody makes that effort to actually get up from the dark room and go over and try to find this switch, we will all be sitting in the dark. So the belief also takes some action. And the action is about our spiritual practice, that which is necessary to deepen that belief, that which is necessary so that the outpicturing of what it is we believe matches exactly what it is that we want. If I'm constantly planting or trying to plant a seed of abundance, but I'm looking at my bank account and my bank account says $2.52, am I believing what I am instilling or am I believing what I see? For some of us, we believe what we see. And what we see, get it correct, what we see is the past. Because oh my gosh, what we see is the past. Because what we see is the outpicturing of that which we already had imagined, and therefore it came into manifestation. So you can't believe what you see. You must believe what you're wanting to see, and you must dedicate the time to that activity so that that outpictures. And when that outpictures, it is then congruent with the desires of your heart. But if we constantly depend upon what it is we see, we're seeing the past. Does that make sense? That's why it ain't over. Because that which is manifested is a result of what I've put into action just a few minutes ago, or last month, or the last year, however long it takes to come to fruition. It's kind of like getting a degree. When you get your master's, when you get your master's degree, it is the outpicturing of the 4 years past, high school that you've done and that you've worked so hard to get. Now, you get to have a new canvas. So now that that's done, what else would you like to bring forth into your experience, into your life? That's why it's always so important as well to lift each other up. We must begin to lift one another up. Not put each other down. Not be like, oh yeah, well, you reap what you sow. So, something else. Sow something else. Be encouraged and be encouraging. Yeah, that stuff happens sometimes. Yeah, that's where when life gives you lemon, you make lemonade. Okay, but do you want peach? Begin to plant peaches. Begin to plant and be with and court and be in relationship with that which you want to have made manifest. There's a quick story about a man who was a farmer. And his whole belief was that, he had to work hard in the field in order to make a living. And he only had but so much land. And, he noticed that some of his land was, there was something, he said there was something wrong with it. I mean, it was just kind of very wet. And it was this filmy stuff on it. And so he didn't farm over there. He had to farm over here. And he could only reap and produce so much. I'm not sure if any of you are farmers and know about the cycle of what it takes to grow certain things. And he just kind of thought to himself, well, you know what? I mean, this is what I have. This is my lot in life, pun intended, right? And I can only make but so much with this land. This is what I have and whatever. And he noticed a few months had passed, and he noticed some guys coming through, and, they were on his property a little bit on the outskirts there, and they were kind of putting their fingers through that stuff and looking at it, and one kind of took a little sample and put it in a little canteen, and one tasted it, and a few weeks later, that man was offered a substantial amount of money for his property. And he thought to himself, bingo, woohoo, I'm going to make me a lot of money. And I don't know what's wrong with these cats. They only going to make so much money farming on this land, but, better their problem than mine. So he took his nice lump sum of money, and he retired in Canada and bought another, plot of land and was doing his thing. But several months later, these developers started putting machinery on it, and they struck gold. Not gold, oil. The black gold, yes. The black gold. Exactly. They struck oil on that land. Now, interesting. Who wins here? Both do, in a sense, right? The farmer, though, had no clue of the abundance that was right where he was. And even though he did get a great price for his land, there was even more abundance beyond that. But because he was limited in what he thought, gosh, I could only farm this much, this is what I'm going to get. They're offering me this, which is probably 10 or 15 times what I get. Good, I'm out. When there was even so much more available to him, but he had no clue. And I tend to think that that's a lot like us. When we don't know the truth of who we are, it's kind of like sitting on that black gold, on that oil, on that land with oil. When we don't know our abundance, when we don't know the truth of who we are, when we are unaware of it, we settle for less. And because that's what we believe that we have to work hard and toil and suffer, or drink out of a wooden cup instead of a chalice, because we forget who we are. And see, though this may have been our experience, and though whatever it is that we face right now, today, whatever it is that our circumstances are out picturing to us, beloved, be gentle with yourself. If you do not like the screen that is before your vision of your life, then you have the opportunity to change it. You have the opportunity to change it. I think I read this last line the last time that I was here, and it was so poignant. This is why we are taught to be transformed by the renewing of our minds, since no one lives by proxy. We are transformed by the renewing of our mind. As we begin to develop our daily spiritual practice, it is done unto us as we believe. It is done unto you as you believe. Where are you believing small? Where are you believing that you are not abundant, or that you are not prosperous, or that your life is not worth anything? Begin to see your life as the life that is that life that God is. Because the truth is right where you are, God is. This life expression is you. So we can think of all these grand things when we think about God. Oh, well, what is God? Well, God is love and perfect peace and power and presence and abundance and clarity, and God is beauty and divine creativity and wisdom and intelligence. And what are you? Oh, well, I'm a minister. No, you are exactly that which I said God was. That is who you are. That is who you are. And to the degree in which we begin to believe that and to know that as our truth, it is to that degree that what is demonstrated, what is made manifest, the outpicturing of our lives, it is to that degree that we absolutely begin to see and feel and experience life in its grandeur. I'm not telling you something that I read in a book. I'm telling you something that I know. You know it as well. So on this Sunday morning, we awaken to this truth. We awaken and we say, no more sleepwalking. It ain't over. Just because I'm in my 50s or my 60s or my 20s or my 30s, it ain't over. Just because I've been arrested or maybe had a drug problem or maybe went bankrupt or maybe lost my house or maybe lost my beloved partner, it ain't over. It is just beginning. This is your opportunity right now to awaken to the truth of your life. Don't sleep on this. It is up to you. You cannot live by proxy. You can't get the benefits out of what I'm doing. You get to have it for yourself. You get to see what we do. You get to see how we live. And through that outpicturing of other people's lives, we get to go, wow, what are they doing? What are they being about? It is done unto us as we believe. Ooh. You believe that you were going to get an amazing minister. And he is amazing. And every person that you've had to fill in to this point has also been equally as fabulous, but you've called it in. You dared to believe that there was someone there for you, for this community. And that's what I know to be the truth about everything in our life. That's why we have practitioners here. You don't have to do this alone. You don't have to go at it alone. That's why we have classes and courses, so that you begin to be in community and learn this with somebody else. Have that coach, that practitioner, that spiritual development coach that assists you on your path and on your journey. That's why we have one another. You know, we come out and sing along on Friday nights on September the 11th. Come out to that. Because it is there that you find folks that are either struggling or manifesting in beautiful ways, and you get to be there. You get to witness that. You get to see, and you get to use those experiences for your own. And that's why it's important to have our daily spiritual practice. So just like you followed your breath this morning, simple. Just like that, we're also going to just go into prayer. And it's not just any kind of prayer. We teach spiritual mind treatment, which is affirming the truth of who we are. We're not begging or beseeching some power outside of ourselves to give us or to grant us or to find us worthy enough to bestow upon us some goodness. No. We recognize that this is the truth of who we are already, and we just become open and receptive to seeing and knowing the truth. And we purposefully, consciously plant those seeds of that which we want to outpicture and demonstrate. So we're going to do that right now. So the invitation is to assume the position. That position that for you is whatever prayer seems like for you. And as we gently allow ourselves just to pause and to digest that which has been shared this morning. And as we begin to just simply feel the vibration of the energy around us, we just bring our attention to the idea that we're living beings, and that something has created all of this. Some energetic, some essence, some life force, some divine power, some love, beauty, some creative intelligence has created everything. And it has created everything out of itself. Whether we call this thing God, Spirit, infinite intelligence, Father Sky, Mother Earth, whatever it is we call it, we're simply bringing our attention to that which has created everything. And what we know is that it has created everything out of itself. Therefore, we are one with this power and presence. That's how we get to stand in the truth, knowing that that which is true of God is true for each and every one of us. I am one with it. It is one with me. I am what thou art. Thou art what I am. And it is from this place of love, of abundance, of beauty, creativity, divine order, wisdom, infinite intelligence, peace and power and joy. It is from this place that I speak the word for and about this beloved spiritual community. Simply calling forth into our own awareness, into our own consciousness, that which is already the truth. That right where we are, everything is coming together for a divine good, not for some, but for each and every one of us. For the degree in which we indeed awaken to this truth and embrace this truth and know it as our very own truth, it is to that degree in which we actually see it played out in the world of affairs. I know right now infinite abundance for each of us. Abundance in health, in our wholeness, abundance in our finances, abundance of love in our homes, in our hearts, in our communities. That divine love that sees love and knows love and recognizes love and speaks the language of love. That love that is not a love that judges, but indeed a love that recognizes the godness, the goodness in each and every one of us. That love that lifts us up and sets us on our way. Yes, indeed, we have abundance of love, an abundance of peace, an abundance of joy that we could just be sitting and just this big old smile just breaks out across our face because we recognize and appreciate all of the gifts and the blessings of life. We appreciate the baby cry or the baby walk, or we appreciate the act of kindness. That joy that just is that joy of giving and that joy of receiving and that joy of being in community and fellowship with one another. That joy of simply being in meditation or that quiet contemplation, recognizing that our life is indeed the life of the one. How grateful I am that this spiritual community is indeed already there. Already there. We are already there. It has already been given. We don't have to ask for anything. We just simply need to align ourselves, align our mental capacity, align our mental thoughts, control our thoughts to remember and align ourselves with this truth. And to the degree in which we do that, the outpicturing in our physical world is indeed that in our spiritual world. For we are indeed spirit first and human second. So I give thanks that this community is indeed so prosperous, so healthy, so whole, so blessed, and that they are indeed a blessing unto the world. How grateful I am for the willingness to continue to do that which is necessary to expand this consciousness even more, right here at home and throughout the world. For we know it ain't over. And because I pray believing it is done, I simply release this word into the activity of the law, knowing that it is already done in the mind of God. And now we simply open our eyes and look for its manifestation in our physical world. For this and so much more, I give thanks and I let it be. And if you are in agreement, together we say, and so it is, and so it shall be. Amen.